Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Writing Escapades with me, David Rawding. I'm an author and former English professor, and one thing I like to do with this channel is to narrate original fiction for you. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to narrate to you an original short story. All right, like I said in the intro, I'm going to narrate for you a short story. This is going to be a horror short story, and it's titled, What Came Out of the Trash? All right, here I go. This story is titled, What Came Out of the Trash? Declan Field tied off the trash bag in the kitchenette of his studio apartment. He slipped his bare feet into flip-flop sandals and adjusted his mesh shorts. Sporting a tank top, he was able to give himself a quick sniff check. The scent of onions greeted him. 3 days in on a week-long vacation from work. 3 days that he hadn't done anything save for getting high and playing video games. He gazed towards the bathroom. I should probably shower today. Declan snatched his sunglasses, gathered the heavy trash bag, and closed the door of his apartment behind him. His flip-flops squeaked and slapped the carpeted hall as he walked. An apartment door ahead of him flung open, and Lana appeared, wearing nurse scrubs. Hey, Dex. Still on for margaritas here Saturday? Declan set the trash bag down and licked his lips. I can practically taste the salt already. I bet you can, big boy, she grinned. Big boy? He flexed his doughy bicep. I'm 2 weeks away from the best shape of my life. You know, Mary actually likes chubby men. Mary. Declan scratched his greasy scalp. My nurse friend Mary, remember? She's super sweet. Oh yeah. He massaged the scruff around his chin with a thumb and index finger. You'll be surrounded by nurses Saturday, so get ready to hear some horror stories. Horror stories, huh? Oh, hey, can you take my trash? Since you're already going that way and all. She smiled wide and fanned her fake lashes. He made an exaggerated sigh. Please. I just worked 5 nights in a row and I'm about to fall asleep standing up. Fine. Declan pointed at her. Just remember to put in a good word for me with, Mary? She rolled her brown eyes and put a hand to her narrow hip. How much have you smoked today? Not enough, clearly, he chuckled. Okay, Mary, Mary, Mary. Say anything 3 times and it'll stick, he said with a wink. She returned with a half-filled white trash bag. Thank you. See you Saturday, Dex. See you then. Get some rest. Declan trudged down the stairs and shouldered the door open. Outside, the early morning Florida heat washed over him. The sun boiled down on his curly hair and his flip-flops stuck to the tar. He moved quickly, as his arms had already grown fatigued, making his way to the big trash container that served his apartment building. Trash poked out well above the lip of the container, forming a garbage mountain. Still no new bin, I see. He pushed through the chain-link fence gate surrounding the container, and the stench of rotten food and chemicals slapped his face. Nasty. With the container overfilled, people had taken to leaving bags on the ground. Several were ripped open and strewn with spilled food and rubbish. Flies patrolled the hellscape, drawn by the stench. Since Lana's trash was fairly light, Declan sent it soaring, and it settled near the peak of the garbage mountain. He ruled out any attempt to throw his heavy trash bag above his head. Declan hesitated a moment, and then he let his trash sit among the others on the ground. He shook his head and wiped his hands. Not my problem. As he started away, he heard something behind him. He spun around in his sandals and listened. Small cries sounded, as if several minuscule voices were squeaking and calling for help. The cries came from the far corner of the fenced-in trash container. Declan stepped around leaking garbage bags and paused again to listen. The squeaks continued, and he located the source. A piece of discarded 4-inch PVC pipe. He stepped closer and peered inside. The tiny mewling sounds came from a half-dozen wriggling bodies. A litter of pink baby rats, who looked to be newborns, climbed all over each other within the pipe. "Should I call the Humane Society or something?" He massaged his chin. A sharp pain stabbed the back of his left ankle. "Ah!" Declan whirled around and kicked with all his might. His foot collided with a small body that flew like a soccer ball, only to be stopped abruptly by the iron wall of the trash container. The body crumpled in a heap. Declan sucked in air and touched the back of his left leg, which pulsed with pain and pumped blood. He gazed down at the creature he'd kicked. It was a full-grown rat lying on its side. His kick seemed to have broken the animal's neck. It lay still, mouth hanging open, with large incisors smattered with Declan's blood, or maybe even its own. He looked from the rat back towards the squeaking babies. "Oh, man, I just killed the mother." The squeaking from the pipe seemed to intensify. He nudged the mama rat's body. It didn't move. His blood oozed down and pooled in his sandal, causing him to step in it with every stride. Declan took one last look at the pipe. "Sorry, guys, I gotta go clean this up." He shook his head and walked away. "God, I'm too sober for this crap." Back in his studio, Declan beelined for the shower. The hot water cleansed him and washed over the rat bite. Clear of sticky blood, the wound wasn't as bad as he'd first thought. The back of his leg radiated pulses of dull pain, but he'd had worse. He didn't have any body wash left, so he dumped a load of shampoo on the bite and scrubbed it in with hot water. After the shower, Declan stuck a Band-Aid over the injury, stepped into some fresh shorts, and slipped on a new tank top. He slumped down on the couch, smoked, and took a shot of whiskey. Soon, the dull pain seemed to fade, and he settled in to playing a video game. When drowsiness came, he rolled over on the couch and eased into a nap. Declan woke and was greeted by darkness. His body cooked and his skin sweat. It felt as if fire ants were nipping the back of his left leg. He filled a mason jar with water and chugged. "Man, I'm achy all over. Must be dehydrated." He took a pain reliever and sipped water as he peered out his sole window. Rain streaked the glass and buffeted the cars, cleansing the dark parking lot. Low thunder rumbled, and lightning lit the distant sky. He wiped sweat off his forehead and took another pull of water. When the lightning came again, he saw the outline of the garbage mountain. He imagined the dead mother rat and the crying babies. He shook his head. Not my problem. Declan drank more water, smoked again, and collapsed in his bed. He woke the next day to find he'd sweat through his sheets. It felt as if someone had pulled and remolded him completely, as if his bones and muscles had been made of Play-Doh. His tailbone ached, and his spine seemed so out of whack that even the thought of standing seemed painful. So, instead, he crawled. He lapped up more water from the mason jar and scrambled on his hands and knees to the couch, where he crumbled into a sweaty heap, panting. Declan's overcooked mind replayed the scene of the baby rats. Their squeaks echoed and amplified as they called out to the cold corpse of their mother. Declan peered at his arms. The dark hair appeared thicker and more coarse. His hands had the look of paws, and his long nails resembled claws. This is crazy. The mother rat's face flashed, her incisors slick with blood. Declan perched his front teeth on his thin lower lip and released a squeak. Must have smoked a bad batch. He pawed away sweat that dripped into his eyes. His stomach groaned. I'm starving. Sliding off the couch, he fell on all fours and shuffled to the refrigerator. The half-eaten rotisserie chicken beckoned him, and he lunged for it. He ate the chicken there on the floor tiles. Teeth bit and claws ripped into the cold flesh and bone. When his stomach was full, he licked himself clean. The litter of rats cried and screeched in his head as if they were close. The babies. His body was drained, but his mind pointed to the image of the pipe, full of mewling rats. My babies. Declan abandoned the chicken carcass and crawled to the apartment door. He opened it halfway and poked his head in the gap. The smell of moldy carpet and residue from the chicken's spices played in his nostrils. His eyes shifted. The hallway appeared quiet and empty. Declan bounded down the hall on all fours and tumbled down the steps. He recovered and pushed through the building's front door. The midday heat bore down on him. He slipped a paw to his eyes and shielded his vision from the harsh sunlight. Like the hall, the parking lot seemed vacant. Declan scrambled. The hot tar scorched his hands and bare feet. He shambled to the mountain of garbage and shouldered through the gate. The rotten stench followed him as he crawled amid the trash heaps. The mother rat's corpse smelled like blood and wet hair. He moved to the pipe. Inside, the babies were still alive, but much less energetic than before. My babies. He poured the creatures into his paw and waited until it was safe to retreat back to his apartment. When he got back, he curled up on his couch, with the babies cradled on the skin of his belly. He kept his arms around them as a ring of safety. They moved and squeaked and called blindly. He pet the tiny bodies that fumbled on his cooking skin. Daddy will keep you warm. He lay there as drowsiness overtook him. I'm a rat. He shut his eyes. A pounding at the door woke him. He was weak, drowsy, and his vision was fuzzy. He felt his babies still patting his belly with their tiny paws. The door opened. Dex, are you here? Declan doubted he had the strength to run and hide, so he remained still. He was out of her line of sight, which meant if he didn't move, she wouldn't see him and the babies. Need to keep them safe. It's Lana. I have an apartment full of drunk nurses. Are you coming or what? He heard her step across the kitchen tile. Dex? He remained still as a cadaver. She entered his blurry vision, just beyond his feet. Lana's eyes went wide and she stepped back. What happened to you? She put a hand to her mouth. I'm a rat. Fatigue enveloped him. Ugh! Her features wrinkled and her stare swung to his left leg. That's inflamed as all hell. I'm a rat. He struggled to get the words out. What's on you? Lana moved closer. My babies. She came to his side. He bared his teeth at her, but didn't have the strength to do more than that. She put the back of her hand to his forehead. You're burning up. She sighed and gazed down at him. Making me go to the hospital on my day off. You owe me big time for this, Dex. I'm a rat. Say anything 3 times and it'll stick. Sure you are, Dex. Sure you are. All right, that's my short story, guys. I hope you liked it. And yeah, if you want to hear more, let me know in the comments. And if you want to read any of my longer works, I have 2 books, Taking on Water and Redemption Grove. They're both suspense thrillers, and the links are in the description. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.